Hello.
Sir, yes, good morning.
Yes, sir. Good
Huh?
morning.
कौन देखा सुन
Hello.
Yes, sir, good morning.
So now start the different types of data models. Different types of data models. So particularly refers to the logical structure of the database that is the represented by the different data models. So that is the logical structure data models. Particularly, it is the we have to use the flow chart. Similarly, here the logical structure also to be developed. So because the reason is the what the development we will do it. Prior to that, we need this. How to the database design is required. So on those cases, first we have to know the entire logical things, logical parts. Logic is always important. In case of the programming, also in case of the database design. Logical structure will tell who are the entities, what are the attributes. We need the types of data models are used, but we will focus toward entity relationship data model. Most important model, that is the entity relationship data model. So data models are the fundamental entities to introduce abstraction in DBMS. Data also concepts required. Generally, the essential features we should know. We have to hide the internal details. We have to hide the internal details. How it is performing, not always we will know. We have to abstract it. We have to abstract it. Abstraction is most important part. Suppose I am giving an example. We are driving bikes or scooters. So on that case, we know yes, only this is the brake. Vehicle will stop. But it is essential to know how the brake works, what are the nut bolts used, what are the internal wires used, where it is connected. If you will know, it will be essential to know all the parts of bikes and scooters. Then we may drive, we may not drive because very difficult. But the abstraction remains. So in general life, day-to-day activities, also the abstraction remains. Remember it because abstraction is a major important part. Levels of abstractions also to be remain so that it will not directly harm into the entire system. So that's the case. So abstraction particularly required because the internal details, hiding internal details, keeping it secret in the internal details. Internal details will never be shown to others always. Only abstraction part. That means essential details. We have to tell. Yes, this system will perform this. So that is why these are the essential functionalities of the system. Because we have to know. If we do not know how the vehicle will proceed, move, then it will be problem. When it will stop, we do not know, so then it will be a problem. Essential details to be shown. But abstraction refers to the hiding internal details. Here also data abstractions that will focus levels of abstraction in DBMS, different levels of abstractions remains because data to be protected, data to be secured, most important parameters. Data in database cases, data to be highly secured. There is a security issues because there is a major issues in computer science. That is the security issues. Security to programming, security to networking, security to database. So all those requires because that is a separate subject. Only we are discussing database to be secured. But how the database will be secured, if you want to know, it is another subject which needs 20 classes to cover. But security means to protect the data from unauthorized users, and sometimes the authorized users also able to access it. Many more cases now the hackers are using the emails. Yesterday one mail come from Spinger Nature. I have published the many papers and books on the Spinger. Somebody hacked the information and that's why Spinger Nature directly replied to me. Because you will be the authorized user, but through your user ID, it will be connected to them. That means what happened? Database is present, but you are also authorized users. But they hackers hack your details to connect to the main main database owners. So, but still the protection is such a high there. They identified it. They identify how they identified that is different thing. But they identified and immediately emailed to me. So they like this occurred. So that is why the protection, the security features to be used, to be applied on our database to protect. So last part is of this module is the security issues in database. Security, particularly now always remember in case of the database, only authorized users will able to access the database. In our previous class, we have discussed the multiple users can access the database simultaneously, same time, concurrency control, concurrent executions, because the database must be associated with large number of users. So users must access at any time. There is no restriction. So on that case, maybe some unauthorized users, maybe authorized to, because unauthorized user may use the authorized users user ID password, but they are considered to be unauthorized. So the security will not allow to access that database. So the security issues to be remain. Abstractions is also remain. Abstractions, data abstraction is a levels of abstraction required, because if you know the internal details first step, you may not know the second step. If you know second step, you may not know the third step. So that is the case. Abstraction is a very important feature. So that is the can be used in the programming. Abstraction also remains in object-oriented programming. So we cannot, because the method and data binded together into a single unit, so that it remains in the abstractions part. But what are the first data models? That is the entity relationship model. So what are the data models? So firstly is the entity relationship model. So entity relationship model, ER model. So ER model, absolutely it is based on the real world entities and their relationships. Real world entities and their relationships. So real world entities and their relationship means, because you the management people will focus on that this. You may not focus towards the design part, because theoretically if it will be considered, if you focus towards this, you can easily know what is the structural part of the database. So entities always refers to the real world objects. Real world, because it is the representations of the real world object and their attributes. So if you focus towards this, you can easily know what is the operational part of the database, who are the users, what are the attributes, what are the relationship. That is the relationship. This is most important. Entity relationship. Entity real world objects. Every system must have the real world object. Table may be object, computer may be object, student may be object, employee may be object, flight may be object, train may be object, customer may be object. So which system you have to develop the database. So on that system, who are the entities? First, logically, we have to develop, design. Once the entities develop, so from individual entity, we have to derive the attributes. This is a long question and also equally important for your working purpose. So once the number of entities through your logic, because you will develop the new ones. Because when the database to be developed, first you have to think the system is this. Suppose university cases. So what will happen? Who are the entities? Student, the first entity. Employee is another entity. Then the results we will keep it. So placement part we will keep it. Library we will keep it. So like this, from your own logic, you have to develop step by step manner. Every cases, not only university management case, but also library management case also directly. Nowadays, library is separate. They are using hospital. They are using medical. Then the airline reservation. They are using. Nowadays, the many more computerized computerized sectors where database development design is essential. Nowadays, even if in the web-based system, the database design is also required. Because the earlier days, the web are the particular refers to the static webs. But now it is possible to work with the dynamic contents. We have to work with the database attached to that, like Flipkart, Amazon's, and so on, so other web-based URLs, where the web databases are used. So that is why it is important. If you will develop this one, like the one part we have discussed the developing the what designing part, object oriented designing part in SDLC unit 2. We have to design the diagrammatical. That is important because when you have designed this one, then programmer will only convert that required part into the executable code. Similarly here, if you will develop it correctly, how many entities are required? We have to go through step-by-step analysis. Step-by-step analysis. Once the entities created, entities part is over, then immediately we have to focus what are the attributes attached involved with the entities. Then another one, relationship. Relationship is important because relationship once the entity is formed, then that one ID must be the unique. Student, in case of student table or student management system, student registration number is unique. Employee registration number is unique. Employee ID is unique. Train number is unique. So bank customer number, account number is unique. So on those cases, we have to focus on that unique ID where it can be used. So that because one that unique ID is present in one table. Internally, directly coding development part, they use table. So, or associated with one entity. Student registration number is entity attribute. Student is the entity, registration number is the attribute. Customer is the entity, customer account number is the attribute. So, but account number present in one table, but it has the links relationship with other parts. So that means that is the known as relationship where that particular attribute can be used. So we have to represent it. Every attribute can be used in the relationship form, but there are some rules, regulation, constraints parts also present. Set of rules and regulations that will be imposed on the attributes, whether it will be a null or not null. Not null. If a field, suppose a customer opened the account means it must have the account number. Without account number, no customer exists. Without registration number, no student present as per the computerized system. So without one train number, no train available. So like this, so we have to focus on that unique part so that it can be easily designed logically where it will be used. That is the known as relationship. ER model, entity relationship model. ER model. That is referred as ER model. ER model is the most important model where all entities along with the attributes, along with the what relationship to be defined. That is the known as ER model. So one is the entities and their attributes and relationship among entities. Okay. So one is entities and attributes, and second one the relationship among entities. Entities and attributes and relationship among entities. This is the logical part. You can do it. There is no issues because sometimes the technical part, coding part may be a problem. But this part you can easily analyze it. So that is why from the beginning I've already told. So analysis should be clear. So if you mistake in the number of entities, suppose 4 entities required, you have done 3 entities. Then what will be the problem? Entire design will absolutely be wrong. Because what ER diagram will be given will be passed to the next developer. So accordingly they will develop. The logical structure will be converted into the coding structure. So if the logic has the mistake, then automatically the coding will be mistake. So that is why at the time of developing entities and their relationship, you have to be careful. All logical approaches. So that's why you may go through large number of case studies. Nowadays, because analysis is easy when we go through various types of case studies. And due to the object-oriented type, nowadays the generation is based on the object-oriented system. So object-oriented system, object-oriented generation, object-oriented programming, object database-based, because ORDBMS, yesterday we have discussed the database is ORDBMS, object relational database management system. So in this case, we can add possible extensibility is possible. So, but again, the problem it will come, so we have to again modify it. But extensible possible means when it is required. It is required once a system is fully developed. After use of that software, after use of that developed one for several years, for several durations, several periods, there might be some problems will come. We have to address those problems, challenges in a modified software. That means updating of the software, updating of the version, so updating of the database, all those cases. But when we plan it, initial stage, we have to cover all the logical part. All the logical part, that is important part. Because ER diagram, flow charts, these are the mostly important ones. If you are not able to develop the correct one, so entire system will be problem. So entity relational model, it is a long question. So how will suppose I will give the notes, but how I will share?
Sir, you can share to Deepak, sir, he will share it in the group.
Is it audible or not?
Sir, you can share
Hello?
it to sir. You can share it to Deepak, sir. He can share it in the group.
Okay. But
सर दीपक सर को दे दो दीपक सर ग्रुप पे शेयर कर देवे
no, only today. Next time it is suppose one day I need possible or not?
सर
Yes,
जेबे
sir.
भी दरकार आपण दीपक सर को दे देले से ग्रुप रे शेयर कर देबे
Then within 1 2 days I will share. Okay.
थैंक यू
सर क्वेश्चन सर
Questions? How question?
Sir,
Possible.
important question.
Okay. So it is a long question. So first we have to define what is entity. So entity will define an entity in an ER model is a real world object or entity having properties. Those objects having properties are called entities. And the properties are called attributes. Every entity means attributes remains. Entity student attributes we have to write. So this is the definition of entity. So for example, a school database, student is an entity and student has various attributes, name, age, class, all those. So that is the case. Relationship, in case of the relationship, that is a different types present. So relationship one to one relationship. one to many relationship, many to one relationship, many to many relationship. So relationship case, that is the problem. So that is the we have to find out whether one to one, one to many to one, many to many. Okay, these are the four types of relationship. So now, suppose you and me have the relationship. Which type of relationship? Myself one, you are many. One to many relationship. When I will interview, so at that time one to one, I will ask individual. That is one to one. Similarly, we have to know where many group discussions, both sides many to many. So that are the possible cases because these are the general cases, so not so difficult and complex cases. But here, which type of relationship your system having? So each step after the developing entities and attributes, we have to find the relationship because the attributes already having the relationship with the other attributes. So we have to know it. We have to know it. So relationship categorized is four types. So one to many, one to one, one many to one, many to many. So that's the yes. That is known as entity relationship data model. Entity relationship data model. Another model referred as this is one model, another data model that is one. This is one model. So you have to give easily some diagrams. So I will show it in the note. So diagram student having what are the attributes, then where it is results or placement, all those real case studies, examples will be shown with the one diagrams. So then it will be a complete one. So that is the case entity relationship data model. Any doubts? Because this is most important model. Okay. So next come to the part relational model. Next is the relational model. So relational model in the relational model. So in the relational model, so this relational model is in the form of the relations. In the form of the relations. That means we have to what our model is relational model. Suppose we are using the entity, but name student, but student is the considered as relation here because so the student having attributes, that is the columns. Student having the values, that is the rows. Student having the relations with other, that is the considered as the constant representations. So like this. So data is stored. So in this relational cases, because same purpose, but there are different models are developed, different types are present. So relational form data is stored. Data where we will store it in the form of tables. So that is known as relation. Data is stored in tables. So that is called relations. But here, one important thing, relation normalized. Relations to be normalized. So most difficult one is the normalized data normalizations. Most difficult one because in the database design, normalization important. Normalization particularly duplicate values, redundant means suppose the repetitions of the values. We have to treat it differently because the database to be normalized one. The same thing we cannot repeat. Suppose a student having two mobile phones. numbers. That means what will happen? Same value in the two rows, we should not keep it. We may keep it in separate part. Student ID this, having the mobile number this, that is separate. But in a primary cases, so we have to represent so that all the values should not be repeated. So redundancy to be required. So we have to reduce the database to be normalized stage. So really normalization is the difficult one because first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, voice for normal form that is required. How the database will be normalized? There are some rules. Accordingly, we have to develop. When we will insert the values to the relation, so the data stored in the table called the relation. Data stored in the table called the relation. When the values will be inserted, so on that time, so we have to focus towards the normalization cases. In normalizations, that is the that is the database design case. Designing a database we will also study that one. So that is a case. So each column that is here relation means rows and columns. Particularly focuses on the rows and columns. We will discuss about the normalizations. So that is the rows and columns. So column values with the rows. Because student registration number, roll number, it is not attribute, it is considered as column. So we have to give the value, what registration number given by the university. So we have to give it. So that is the representations of the rows. So that is why it is relation. That is why it is related. Because all the values in the tabular structure is relations. This value having the relation. Because this is the row, this is the column. It is the relations having the relation. So this is another data model. This is another data model. And it clear. So these two models you have to write and you have to also remember. So these two part. Next come to the part database design. Getting clear on the data models because you have to write the data models. So what is the role of the because the data models are important. Data models because either you will go through the entity relationship or the relational model. So these are the data models currently we are using. So next is we have to focus to the database design. Design, particularly in case of the database, there's a CORD's principle. There's scientist CORD. So the scientist CORD, EF CORD, has given lots of principles, 13 principles. So those 13 principles usually to be followed, to be obeyed at the time of maintaining the database, creating the database, all those things. So particularly database design case. Design of database itself is also a long question. So design of the database particularly refers to the normalization. Because for entire system, database will be designed. What are the entities remain? What are the attributes remain? What are the relationship types? All those cases we need representing. We need representation. So that is why we have to go through normalizations. Normalizations, particularly having different rules. So one is the functional dependency. So you may not go through all because the normalization is really difficult one because you have to prepare the database as per the different rules and functions. It is easy. You can if you practice it always. It will no problem. So that is some rules like the functional dependency. What are rules suppose now I will tell. Suppose functional dependency CFD. Functional dependency is a set of constraints between two attributes in a relation. Set of constraints. Constraints set of constraints between two attributes. One attribute is the registration number, one is the age. Two attributes. Now these are the two attributes. What are the constraints? Constraints which rules regulation. Suppose mass greater than 30, that is a constraint. Age greater than 20, that is a constraint. So account number must have a unique value. I mean left with value. I can go to field. You may give value, may not give value. You may give value, you may not give value. If you are not giving the value, what is it? It is empty, it is a null. It is null value, but we cannot keep it null. Account number must have a value. So that is the constraint. Different types of constraints associates with the columns. Every column we can add constraint. Constraints to be added at the time of designing the database. So which type of constraint we will add? Either there are constraints very few types. Suppose one is not null, one is unique, another is check, another is not null and unique. Only not null, no. If account number is already assigned to other customer, at that time we cannot give the same number to another customer. Registration number is once assigned to you means same registration number cannot be assigned to other students. What does it mean? It is unique and not null. So it is unique. First case is unique. Again, must be assigned with one registration number. Must be assigned with one registration number. That is also required because we cannot left the field as blank. We cannot repeat the value. There might be 30 crores customers of SBI, but 30 crores account number is assigned. So neither you can left the field nor you can assign same value again and again. So that is the different types of constraints can be applied on the attributes. This is the column 1, this is the column 2, this is the column 3. So in a relation or in a table, we can keep number of columns. So every column must have the unique constraints or the rule regulations can be applied. So accordingly, the data to be filled. So which type of behavior of the constraints between the attributes we have to also know it. Because accordingly the data will be entered. Otherwise, that is the problematic cases will come. So functional dependency, first phase in the normalization we have to, because how to design a database, that is very important. So in design case, one point we have to remember the functionality dependency. Functional dependency, so it's a set of constraints. What is the set of constraints between two attributes? Constraints I have already told you, that is the rules not null check between two attributes. Functional dependency represent like arrow, arrow symbol. X and Y are the attributes. Arrow symbol directly used. This X functionally determines Y. So that is the one case. Another case is also Armstrong's axioms. Armstrong's axioms, it is having some rules that apply repeatedly, generate a closure case of functional dependence. Once functional dependence over, then it will be applied. So that is first one case, that is the reflexive value. Reflexive value means if alpha is a set of attribute, beta is subset of alpha, then alpha holds beta. This like derivations, some axioms, rules. If alpha is a set of attributes, alpha is having set of attributes, x, y, z attributes. Beta is a subset of alpha. Beta is subset of alpha, one attribute. Then alpha holds beta. This is a general rule because in the entire system, large number of relations present, tables present. So we have to derive like it, whether it is rule-wise reflexive or not. That is a reflexive rule. That is known as one reflexive rule. Similarly, there is a transitivity rule. There is another rule, that is the transitivity rule. Transitivity rule says if A functionally depends on B, if A functional dependence on B false B functional dependence on C, transitivity general case, that means what? A is functional dependence on C. That is the case if A functionally dependent on B. Okay. B functionally dependent on C. So general case, so that means what? A is dependent on C. So we can derive it easily. We can derive it easily because this is the rule of transitivity. This is the rule of transitivity. So that is the determines the value. Because these are the attributes present inside your design, logical part. So we have to derive some rules so that our database will be normalized. Database will be normalized. That is the rule of Armstrong's. Similarly, that is another under the trivial functional dependency, but final one is the normalization. So these are the previous prior to the normalization. We have to remember it. But next is the normalization. Many times bad anomalies is also present within the creating the database type. So we have to update the anomaly. Anomaly means what? If data items are not linked to each other, that's the case of anomaly. If the data items are scattered, that is also anomaly. So we have to, for example, when we update one data, if it is scattered in several places, a few instances get updated properly while few others are left. Updated anomalies, because normalization focuses towards three parts: update anomaly, deletion anomaly, and insertion anomaly. So particularly focuses on three parts: updated anomalies. So update means what? Update, earlier I have already told you, update. We have to update a value, means previously present one value, we have to change it. We have to change it. You have secured F grade, fail, then you have upward, then you have secured A grade. So we have to update the data. The previously stored value to be changed. That's the updation. So updated anomaly is also same thing. When the data items are not linked to each other or scattered, at that time the updations to be required, but it is also a problem. A few instances automatically be updated, a few instances may not be automatically updated. So that is the case. Deletion anomalies. Deletion anomaly means what? We want to delete. There are large number of records, related records to be deleted. Some are deleted, some are not deleted. So that is that comes under deletion anomalies, because database design is not appropriate. So the deletion anomalies refer if we want to delete a record, but parts of it left undeleted because of unawareness. But the data is also saved somewhere else. We have deleted, but data is present in somewhere else. So that should not be. So that is the purpose of the deletion anomalies. Last one, that is the insert anomalies. Insert anomalies, we try to insert data in a record but that does not exist at all. Insertion anomaly. We try to insert, but that never exists. But we are trying. So that is insertion anomalies. So we should focus these three anomalies at the time of creating the or designing the database. So normalization is a method to remove all these anomalies and brings the database to a consistent state. So this is the definition. Normalization is a method to remove all these anomalies, deletion anomalies, insertion anomalies, updation anomalies, and database into a consistent state. Consistent state where database can be operable for several years. So that is the rule of the normalization. Because types of normalizations present, but that is not required for you. But this is the design part of the database. This is the design part of the database. And last one, that is the security issues. Security issues we have already discussed. Also the security issues. This is the what we have discussed already. So how to maintain the layers wise security, because the authorized users once getting the user ID and password, that is the database administrator will allow you. Who will allow the to use the database? So database administrator, because I have already told you there are three types of database user. One is the administrator, one is the developer, another is the user. So administrator will administrate or giving the permissions to you, because there is also the what syntactical approach to create the separate user ID and passwords for the individual customers or individual users, student users, student having user ID password. That is done by the database administrator. So database administrator can easily identify what are the activities you are doing, because you are the authorized person. Because authorized person also do the harms. If you will enter in somebody's room, you may do any types of works, firing or killing or keep the good relationship. So, but the activities to be studied, so that you cannot do any types of harms. Because many times, if you may work in the system, because in the programming also we have to work with the system global area, but you cannot do any harm. Although you enter, but when you violates the rules, immediately the security part features will come. So security in case of the database to protect our relations, protect our values, protect entire entities and their relationships, all those things. In spite of the users interact with the database, entire database one. Because you are the part of the database where large number of other users are using that same database at the same time also, but no problem or no harms for the database is possible due to the highly secured features. There are large number of security algorithms present, security techniques present, which is already imposed on the database to protect it at any cost. Data should not be lost or to be corrupted or to be modified by unauthorized users. So it must be changed through the database administrator. Database administrator can change it, because he has the power to modify the database. When you are securing the good grades to update in the database, who will do it? Database administrator. So this is all about the last unit. So I will give the entire notes some because of the which in the long question format. So what I discussed here, so I will share, and within couple of days to 3 days I will share. So from first to last.
স্যার আপনার মোবাইল নাম্বারটা
Huh?
মোবাইল নাম্বারটা
700 This is my contact details. You can contact 700880640 and the mail ID is the skpani.utkal@gmail.com.
थैंक यू सर सर आपण चाहिले एक्स्ट्रा क्लास नहीं
Thank you,
परिबे
sir.
Huh?
आपण चाहछन्ते एक्स्ट्रा क्लास नहीं परिबे किछि सब्जेक्ट छाड़ देतिबे
अच्छा अब मो नोटटा देउची आगे देखो हैला एंड मो नंबर तो रहला नोटटा हिसाब रे जेतबेले भी जदी डाउट्स थिबो मते फोन करले मो जो फ्री टाइम ता से हिसाब कहि देबी हैला सपोज इवनिंग रे कैन टेक सो आई विल टेल आई विल डिस्कस इन द इवनिंग हां so because as per syllabus I am giving the notes so you should just go through it because we have discussed overall we have discussed because you are not entering into the technical details okay. So that's a advantage because technical having the lots of problems. But here overall it is okay because many more in depth not required at all. So only the introductory parts. So you just go through that and syllabus is also with you. So any problem you can call me. So or you can create the groups. I may not take here, but I may help you in the other what times and from direct mind link.
ओके सर थैंक यू
So you can call me, no issues at a time, but I will give the my free time, leisure time to you to discuss about any topics from that subject.
सर इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन शेयर करिवे
आपको शेयर कर देब जने जदी आइदर जदी के जने कांटेक्ट करिवो मु ताकू नल सब दे देले से जदी शेयर करि परिवो ना मुडे कम
Again, sir. Contact करू आपण को आपण देला मैं ग्रुप रे शेयर कर दे
हां ए नंबर रे मते ए मेसेज कर देले
Again, sir.
so I will share everything
सर आपने टी नंबर डाले
7
Sir लिखिसंते
ला लिखिछते
it lekha hai chala already written here 70088806040 okay thanks to all.
Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू सर
Thank you.